The breaking point, the morning sun cast long shadows across the research domes of New Geneva colony as Dr. Elena Vasquez made her final rounds through the botanical laboratories. The settlement on Kepler-4 for to be had been humanity's pride for 15 years, a testament to peaceful expansion and scientific discovery. 3,000 researchers, their families, and support staff had built something beautiful here among the purple forests and crystal streams of this distant world. Alina paused at the observation deck, watching her 80-year-old daughter, Maria, chase butterflies with wings like stained glass through the colony's central garden. The child's laughter echoed off the transparent aluminum walls, a sound that had become as natural as breathing in this place, where humanity had chosen knowledge over conquest. The tranquility shattered when the emergency sirens began their haunting wail. All personnel to designated shelters immediately, the automated system announced. This is not a drill. Hostile vessels detected in system. Elena's heart pounded as she gathered Maria, joining the streams of people moving with practiced efficiency toward the underground bunkers. They had drilled for this moment, though none truly believed it would come. The colony was unarmed by design, protected only by treaties and the goodwill of galactic civilization. High above the atmosphere, the Zephyrian Imperial fleet materialized, from hyperspace like predators emerging from tall grass. 60 warships, their hulls gleaming with the deep blue-black of their empire's colors, arranged themselves in perfect formation around the small human world. Their weapons remained powered down, but the message was unmistakable. Emperor Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, his 4 arms clasped behind his broad back as he studied the planet below. His species had ruled this sector of space for 3 millennia, expanding through conquest and subjugation. These newcomers, these humans, had been tolerated long enough. "Send the transmission," he commanded, his voice a low rumble that resonated through his chest cavity. On New Geneva colony, emergency screens throughout the settlement flickered to life, displaying the imposing figure of the Zephyrian Emperor. His scaled face bore the ceremonial scars of rulership, and his golden eyes held the cold certainty of absolute power. Inhabitants of the human settlement, Vextar began, each word measured and final. You occupy territory claimed by the Zephyr Empire 3,000 years before your species achieved spaceflight. Your presence here is no longer acceptable. You have 48 standard hours to evacuate completely. Any humans remaining after this deadline will be considered hostile invaders and dealt with accordingly. The transmission ended, leaving 3,000 people staring at blank screens in stunned silence. Dr. Vasquez held her daughter closer as murmurs of fear and disbelief rippled through the crowd. 15 years of their lives, of careful research and gentle cultivation of this world, dismissed with a handful of words. But humanity had not survived its violent past by yielding to bullies, no matter how large their fleets, within hours. Ambassador Sarah Chen arrived aboard the fastest courier ship in the Terran fleet. She was a woman in her 50s, grey-haired and sharp-eyed, who had spent 30 years negotiating humanity's place in a galaxy that often viewed them as dangerous children playing with forces beyond their understanding. Sarah requested an audience with Emperor Vextar aboard his flagship, hoping that reason and diplomacy might prevent catastrophe. The Zephyrian leader received her in his throne room, a vast chamber designed to intimidate with its soaring ceilings and displays of conquered worlds. "Your Majesty," Sarah began, bowing respectfully according to Zephyrian custom, "surely we can reach an accommodation." Our colony is small, our presence minimal. We seek only to study and learn from this beautiful world. Vextar's laugh was like grinding stone. You humans speak always of accommodation, of compromise. This is weakness disguised as virtue. The strong take what they require. The weak surrender what they cannot hold. We are not weak, Sarah replied carefully. We simply prefer peace to conflict. But we will not abandon 3,000 innocent people to satisfy your empire's appetite for conquest. The emperor leaned forward on his throne, golden eyes glittering with amusement. Your species fascinates me, ambassador. You speak of not being weak, yet you build settlements without weapons, send diplomats where warriors should go. You have perhaps 200 warships in your entire fleet, spread across dozens of worlds. We have assembled 60 vessels here alone, with thousands more throughout our territory. Sarah maintained her composure despite the chill running down her spine. Numbers are not everything, Your Majesty. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one who chooses not to fight until they must. Philosophy, Vextar dismissed with a wave of one massive hand. My answer remains unchanged. 48 hours. The negotiations continued for 36 hours as Sarah exhausted every diplomatic tool in her arsenal. She offered compensation, alternative arrangements, even joint research partnerships that would benefit both species. Each proposal met the same response: total evacuation or total destruction. As the deadline approached, Sarah made one final plea via open transmission, knowing that her words would reach not only the Zephyrian fleet, but also Earth itself, 47 light-years distant. Emperor Vextar, she said, standing alone on the observation deck of her small ship as both fleets maintained their positions around the planet. I ask you one final time to reconsider. The people of New Geneva Colony are scientists, teachers, children. They pose no threat to your empire. Their only crime is existing in a place you now claim as yours. She paused, looking directly into the camera that would carry her words across the void. But if you choose to proceed with this massacre, if you choose to murder 3,000 innocent people for the sake of conquest, then know this: you will have made the greatest mistake in your empire's 3,000-year history. Humanity remembers its friends, Your Majesty, but we never forget our enemies. Vextar's response was swift and final. Your time is over, human. Accept your fate with dignity, or accept it screaming. The choice is yours. 12 minutes later, the Zephyrian fleet opened fire. The bombardment was methodical and merciless. Fusion cannons turned the research domes to vapor, while particle beams carved burning scars across the landscape. The evacuation shelters, designed to protect against natural disasters, offered no defense against military-grade weapons. Dr. Elena Vasquez held her daughter as the walls collapsed around them, whispering words of comfort that were lost in the roar of destruction. She thought of the flowers they had planted together, of the discoveries they would never make, of the future that was being burned away above their heads. The attack lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, New Geneva Colony was gone, erased from existence, along with every person who had called it home. The purple forests burned for days afterward, their ashes mixing with the remains of human dreams. Emperor Vextar stood on his bridge, studying the glowing crater that had once been a settlement. The demonstration had been perfect, a clear message to any other species that might challenge Zephyrian dominance. Let the galaxy see what happened to those who refuse to bow. Send word to the other human colonies, he ordered. They have one standard month to abandon their territories within our sphere of influence, or they will share the same fate. But as the Zephyrian fleet prepared to depart, something unexpected happened. Every human ship, station, and settlement throughout known space simultaneously began broadcasting the same signal. It was not a message of surrender or negotiation. It was not a plea for mercy or an offer of tribute. It was a simple image, a black flag bearing a human skull, ancient symbol of no quarter given. Beneath it, 3 words in every known language: the die-cast. On Earth, in the deepest chambers beneath the Terran Defense Ministry, old men and women who had spent decades ensuring that certain weapons remained theoretical activated protocols that had been prepared but never used. The Black Protocol, they called it. The last resort that their species had hoped would never be necessary. Admiral Thane Blackwood received his orders with the same grim satisfaction that his ancestors might have felt when loading muskets at Lexington Green or climbing into fighters at Pearl Harbor. Humanity had been pushed too far, and now the galaxy would learn why their species had fought its way from caves to stars, despite every natural and unnatural enemy that had stood in their path. The die was cast indeed. The Zephyrians had chosen war, and now they would discover why humanity's greatest strength had never been its weapons or its technology. It had always been its willingness to use them. Asterisk. The reckoning, the first sign that something fundamental had changed, came 3 days after the destruction of New Geneva colony. Long-range scanners throughout Zephyrian space began detecting anomalous readings in the void between stars. Ships that registered on sensors for brief moments before vanishing again, moving too fast and along trajectories that made no tactical sense. Emperor Vextar dismissed the reports initially. Sensor ghosts were common in deep space, caused by gravitational lensing or exotic matter clouds. His attention was focused on the expected human response to his ultimatum. He had given their remaining colonies 1 month to evacuate Zephyrian territory. 3 weeks remained, and still the humans showed no signs of compliance. Instead, they had gone silent. The discovery of the Kepler station debris field changed everything. The military outpost had housed 5,000 Zephyrian soldiers and controlled shipping lanes for 3 systems. It had been defended by a full squadron of heavy cruisers and surrounded by the most advanced sensor networks in the Empire. Now it was dust, literally. The investigating team found no wreckage larger than a grain of sand. No survivors, no indication of what had caused the annihilation. The metals had been reduced to their component atoms and scattered across millions of cubic kilometers of space-like glitter in the cosmic wind. Impossible, whispered General Cathara, the Empire's chief military strategist, as she studied the report. No known weapon can achieve matter disintegration on this scale. The energy requirements alone would demand the output of a star. Emperor Vextar's forearms trembled with barely controlled rage as similar reports flooded in from across his territory. Patrol fleets vanishing without distress calls. Mining stations found empty, their automated systems still running but their crews simply gone. Border worlds reporting strange lights in their skies before all communication ceased. The pattern was clear but incomprehensible. Something was systematically dismantling the outer regions of the Zephyrian Empire, working inward toward the core. Worlds with methodical precision, yet no enemy fleet had been sighted, no demands issued, no territory claimed by the attackers. They were simply erasing Zephyrian presence from space, as if it had never existed. The truth revealed itself when a damaged transport ship limped into the capital system, its hull scarred by weapons that had never appeared in any military database. The surviving crew members were catatonic with terror, speaking in whispers. of shadows that moved between dimensions and weapons that rewrote the laws of physics. They came from nowhere. The ship's captain managed to stammer during debriefing. One moment we were in normal space, the next we were surrounded by things that hurt to look at. Ships that existed in too many dimensions, made of materials that shouldn't be possible, and the humans aboard them. The captain shuddered, his scales pale with remembered fear. They weren't angry. That was the worst part. They were just ... efficient, like exterminators dealing with an infestation. They didn't speak, didn't make demands. They just killed everything and moved on. Emperor Vextar demanded answers from his science council, his intelligence networks, his military leaders. How had a species with 200 ships developed? Technology that could disintegrate matter itself. Where had they hidden fleets capable of striking anywhere in Zephyrian space without warning? The answer came in the form of a transmission that bypassed every security system in the Empire, appearing simultaneously on every screen. Every communication device, every holographic display from the capital world to the furthest frontier outpost. Admiral Thane Blackwood stood on the bridge of a ship that violated several laws of physics simply by existing. Behind him, space itself appeared twisted into impossible geometries, as if reality had been folded and refolded until it screamed. The human looked older than in the files, his hair gone white and his face marked by lines of absolute determination. "Emperor Vextar," he began, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's accumulated fury. "You killed 3,000 of our people, scientists, teachers, children, people who had never raised a weapon against your empire, who sought only knowledge and understanding." The image panned to show a tactical display of Zephyrian space. Nearly half of the Empire's territory was marked in red, indicating systems that had gone dark. The rate of expansion was accelerating. "You wanted to teach the galaxy about Zephyrian strength," Admiral Blackwood continued. "Instead, you have provided us with a demonstration of human patience, finally exhausted. For 70 years, we have hidden our true capabilities. We allowed ourselves to be seen as weak, as peaceful, as no threat to anyone." He gestured to the impossible space outside his ship, where more vessels flickered in and out of visible reality like predatory fish in deep water. Dimensional fold drives that allow instantaneous travel across any distance. Quantum disruptors that unmake matter at the subatomic level. Reality anchors that prevent FTL escape. Nanite swarms that can dismantle a planet in hours. Every nightmare weapon we developed during our most savage wars, locked away because we told ourselves we had evolved beyond such things. The display zoomed in on the Zephyrian capital system, where the Empire's most powerful fleets had gathered in desperate defense. "Your attack on New Geneva colony didn't just kill our people, Your Majesty. It killed the part of humanity that argued for your continued existence. The diplomats who counseled restraint are dead. The scientists who believed in peaceful coexistence are ash. The children who might have grown up to forgive you will never have that chance." Admiral Blackwood's eyes reflected the twisted light of folded space as he delivered humanity's final judgment. "We are not coming to conquer your worlds or rule your people. We are coming to ensure that the Zephyrian Empire becomes a cautionary tale told to warn others against mistaking human mercy for weakness. When we are finished, archaeologists will debate whether your civilization ever existed at all." The transmission ended with coordinates of the capital world and a countdown timer. 6 hours. Emperor Vextar stared at the blank screen as the implications crashed over him like a tide of ice water. His intelligence networks had failed completely. His military had been fighting shadows, while the real threat prepared to strike at the heart of everything he had built. The approaching human fleet defied every assumption about their capabilities. Instead of the few hundred ships his analysts had predicted, thousands of vessels emerged from dimensions that shouldn't exist, their hulls made of materials that absorbed sensor beams and reflected them as pure darkness. The Zephyrian defenders opened fire while the human fleet was still light minutes away, pouring enough destructive energy into space to sterilize solar systems. The weapons passed through the human ships as if they weren't there, or perhaps as if reality itself had been convinced that the attacking fleet existed somewhere else entirely. When the humans returned fire, the results defied comprehension. Zephyrian dreadnoughts, each capable of cracking planets, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not disabled, but edited out of reality as if they had never been built. Defensive. Stations that had stood for centuries flickered and were gone, leaving only empty space where moments before had been millions of tons of metal and weaponry. The siege of Zephyr Prime lasted exactly 17 minutes, the same duration as the attack on New Geneva colony. When it ended, the capital world remained intact, but every orbital facility, every defensive platform, every ship in the system had been reduced to cosmic dust. Emperor Vexter found himself alone on his flagship, the sole survivor of his bridge crew, as human boarding parties materialized directly through his ship's hull. They wore armor that bent light around it and carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "Your Majesty," said their leader, removing her helmet to reveal the face of a young human woman with eyes like winter storms. "I am Captain Rivera of the Terran Defense Corps. You are now a prisoner of war." Vexter's 4 arms shook with rage and terror. "You cannot do this. The Galactic Accords forbid." "The Galactic Accords," Captain Rivera interrupted, "ceased to apply when you murdered civilians under a flag of truce. You chose to teach the galaxy about strength through slaughter. We have simply provided a more effective demonstration." As news of the Empire's fall spread throughout known space, other galactic powers watched in stunned silence. The hegemony recalled their fleets from human space. The Corporate Federation offered immediate trade concessions. The Stellar Commonwealth requested urgent diplomatic meetings to discuss mutual cooperation. The message was received clearly across 1,000 worlds and 10,000 species. Humanity's long experiment with peaceful expansion was over. They had tried to be good neighbors, to share the galaxy through cooperation and mutual respect. Some had chosen to respond with genocide. Those species were learning why humanity had fought its way from the caves to the stars, why a young species from a backwater world had carved out an empire, through determination and the absolute refusal to yield to those who would destroy them. In the ruins of Zephyr Prime's orbital shipyards, Admiral Blackwood stood before a gathering of galactic ambassadors who had arrived to witness the aftermath. Representatives of a dozen major powers listened in absolute silence as he delivered humanity's final word on the subject. "Let this be understood by every intelligence in the galaxy," he said, his voice carrying across subspace to every inhabited world within 100 light-years. "Humanity seeks peace. We prefer cooperation to conquest, trade to war, building to destroying. But we will not be pushed, we will not be threatened, and we will never again allow our people to be murdered by those who mistake our restraint for weakness." He gestured to the debris field that had once been the Zephyrian Imperial fleet, now a glittering cloud of metallic dust expanding slowly into the void. "Choose peace, and we will be your greatest allies. Choose friendship, and we will defend you against any threat. But choose war against humanity, and you will discover why we have never lost a fight that mattered. The black flags still flew in human space, but now they carried a different meaning. Not a promise of war, but a reminder of its price. The galaxy had learned its lesson, written in the ashes of an empire that had pushed too far. Humanity had warned them. They had chosen war instead. Now the stars themselves would remember. Why that choice echoed across the cosmos as a cautionary tale for any who might be tempted to mistake human mercy for weakness ever again.